jurisdicción de Estados Unidos a Cuba es buena.
Yo grabo para que enseña a tus amigos del país. Quisiera que Cuba tenga cambio. Yo soy cubano, que son canadienses, ellos quieren saber la realidad cubana, ¿no?
Hoy en la actualidad es muy difícil. Tú vas a Centro Havana, vas a verlo, todos los basureros y las personas buscando basura.
¿Qué piensa de Donald Trump?
Mucha gente dice que está loco, pero con Cuba no está loco.
No.
No.
Welcome back. You know, Rebel News has been around for about 10 and a half years now. Actually, almost 11 years. I want to tell you the most scary moment of those 10 and a half years. It was not when I was arrested briefly in Toronto and was taken to jail. I actually wasn't scared at all. I knew it was a false arrest. I knew I would be released quickly, and I knew I would sue the Toronto police, which I have done. It's not when I bumped into Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, and he tried to intimidate me by taking my picture. I knew that was just his attempt to do something, anything to scare me off. Now, I'll tell you the scariest moment in the nearly 11 years of running this place was when Alexa Lavoie and Efron Monsanto flew to Cuba to do their undercover reporting because, of course, they were using their real passports, and we weren't going to try and give them forged documents. We're not that cloak and dagger. And we had sort of talked about how they would answer the question, what are you doing down here? Well, we're here on a vacation. And they were posing as a couple going to Havana. We booked them into a Havana hotel. And I watched as their flight, it was a snowstorm in Toronto. So I tracked their flight. There's all sorts of different websites where you can see the plane's progress as it goes. And the flight was a little bit late, so it landed in Havana. I saw it online, landing in Havana just after 7 p.m. I thought, okay, I know that when you land in Calgary or Vancouver or Toronto on a foreign flight, you have to line up at customs. And I thought, okay, it's probably going to take a couple hours, I thought, so I'm not going to worry. Okay, so 7 o'clock turned into 8 o'clock, turned into 9 o'clock. I thought, okay, I should be hearing from them fairly soon, like just a message that they're okay. Then 10 o'clock, then 11 o'clock. Now it's 4 hours, then midnight. So they have been on the ground for 5 hours, and I haven't heard a word. And I thought to myself, even in the most red tape, Kafkaesque bureaucracy, it wouldn't take 5 hours to get through customs. And then I got terrified. I thought, how would I know if they were arrested? What if they were arrested and taken to jail? I just simply don't know. And I don't know how to contact them because they took what we call burner phones down there. They didn't take their phones, modern smartphones of all your email and all your contacts. And, you don't go to certain places with your real phone. You don't go to China with your real phone. You don't go to Russia with your real phone because they'll scan it and snoop on it. So we sent Alexa and Efron down there with burner phones. And 5 hours in, I started to, I don't think panic is the word, but I got truly scared. I thought, what if they've been arrested? And so I broke protocol and I phoned the hotel where they were staying. And I just said, have they arrived? And she said in her broken English, oh yeah, they've arrived. And I thought, oh my goodness. And then it wasn't too much longer when Efron sent me just a friendly email saying, yeah, they landed. And I was relieved because it was that first moment at customs that I thought would be the stickiest moment. Anyways, I have to tell you, I was genuinely scared. And I thought to myself, what have I done? Because the bravery required to go into an authoritarian regime where merely criticizing the regime gets you, if you're a citizen, 5 or 10 years in prison. Now, I knew that if Alexa and Efron were arrested, they would not be sentenced to 5 or 10 years in prison. They would probably be held in prison a few days and then deported. But even that might be very unpleasant in a place like Cuba. Their jails are not like our jails. Luckily, it was just a combination of moving through customs very slowly and the fact that they have very poor internet and phone service there, and that our team had dumbed down burner phones. Anyways, I just wanted to tell you, in the 10 and a half years here, that was the scariest moment I had. And joining me now is one of our two intrepid reporters who went undercover at risk of jail. Alexa Lavoie. Alexa, great to see you. And I just wanted to tell that story. You really had me worried when you landed and I didn't hear from you for 5 hours. I really thought that there was a chance you were arrested. Thank God that didn't happen.
Actually, I didn't have any access to my email. I didn't have access to anything. So all my faith was on Efron to actually send an email to say that we are alive.
Well, I'm so glad. Tell me what it was like. So you went down there, you used your real name, and it would be foolish to try and hide who you were. If someone were to type in your name in Google, it would pop up that you were with Rebel News. So we didn't try and hide that or lie. Lying could probably get you into bigger trouble. So what was it like? You landed at the airport in Havana. I've never been to Cuba. I take it it's a smallish airport. It's not going to be a busy hub like Toronto. What was it like? You went on, I think, WestJet, if I recall. Was the plane full? Who met you at the airport? Were there police, or was it just a board, someone who just rubber stamped your passport? What was it like? And did they ask you questions about who you were, or did they just assume you were a tourist and wave you in?
It was really a small airport. And when we arrived, it was only one plane who actually landed. And the first room that you enter, you need to go and scan your visa. And then you return to the line for going to the custom. But the thing is, it took so much time. I don't know what was happening and what was the whole process, but for every single person, it was taking so much time to verify probably the passport or anything. But they didn't actually ask us any questions. So we gave the passport, they took our picture, then they gave back our passport and then go.
Well, thank God. I mean, I have to tell you, I was on the edge of my seat. So I take it then you went in a bus with the rest of the people into the city. And obviously we chose to send you to Havana, the big city, the capital city, as opposed to a beach resort. A beach resort, you would be hidden from the local population. The staff at the hotel would be very careful. They wouldn't say anything. In fact, they probably would be friendlier to the regime because they have a job that gets them better food, tips in U.S. money. Like working at a resort in Cuba is considered a great job, isn't it? Because you have access to Westerners, some of whom bring gifts, like whether it's, toiletries or clothing. A lot of people, when they go to Cuba, actually bring things to leave because they know the people there are so poor, right?
Yes. So the best job that you can have is either working for the regime or working in a hotel. First of all, because you sleep there, you eat there, and you have a salary. As an example, someone say that doctors and teachers have a lower salary than the people who work in the hotel. And so they have to beg in the streets as a second job because they can't afford to feed their family.
¿Comprenden? Aquí en Cuba tú trabajas y los salarios son muy bajos. Yo trabajo profesor de escuela de niños. Mi salario al mes es 2.800 pesos cubanos, que viene siendo en dólar como $7 al mes. ¿Al mes? Es nada. Es nada. Yo vivo con mi familia, tengo 2 niñas, una de 5 y una de 3. Mis niñas llevan 2 años tomando agua con azúcar. Lo grabo para que enseñe a tu familia del país.
Lo que pasa, un cartón de huevo te cuesta 3.000 pesos cubanos. Es un salario de una persona. No es posible comprarlo.
It's so heartbreaking. That was the number one thing. I watched your video. Obviously, I watched the video being edited, so I've seen it several times. And the number one thing that hits me, besides the fact that Havana is turning into an open-air garbage dump because they've stopped running the garbage trucks because they're running out of fuel. Like it's just so shocking. But that's the first thing, these mountainous piles of garbage everywhere, which is it's got to be unhygienic. I'm sure it doesn't smell good. There's got to be rats in there. Like, it's a terrible thing. But the second thing is the abject poverty. I have traveled in various places in the world, and it reminded me of the poverty I saw in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. People living in what looked like bombed out buildings. The apartments these people were living in, it looked like it had been attacked in a war. But it's just 70 years of neglect under the communists. Like, the excruciating poverty. I didn't know Cubans were so poor. Maybe, and it reminds me of what happened in Venezuela, which used to be one of the richest countries in the world until communism and socialism undermined it too. Were you shocked by how poor and how hungry everyone was?
Yeah, I've been to Cuba many years ago. I think it was 10 or 12 years ago. And at that time, I knew Cuba was a poor country, but now what I saw was something else. I've been traveling in many, many countries in my life. And I think Cuba, it's one of them where I can say that I think it's one of the poorest places that I did visit in my life. I've been to India, I've been to Africa, but I can tell you that over there, it's just despair. It's just, there is nothing left. Like buildings are collapsing, garbages are just piling up. There is no food. You go to the drugstore, there is literally no medicine. It's empty shelves. There is lineup for going to buy bread, and there is only a certain amount of breads available per day because they run out of flour or other ingredients.
Esta es la bodega de nosotros. Nosotros tenemos una libreta de razonamiento que nos dan mensualmente lo que venga. Ahora solamente este me vino 3 libras de azúcar prieta, 5 libras de arroz y media libra de aceite para el mes completo, para una familia completa.
¿O solo una familia?
Sí, para un mes. Ahora mira y no hay nada. Esta es la bodega, mira.
¿Qué es?
La bodega del pueblo. No hay nada, no hay nada.
So it's really sad to see. It's sad also to hear like some parents saying that they give sugar water to their kids because they cannot afford to give them anything else.
It's so heartbreaking. Now, you two stood out just by how you look, how you dress. I mean, you clearly were tourists. What was the reaction when people saw you? You were in Havana, so you weren't at a resort. You were right in the heart of the city. You were staying in a hotel that online it looked nice enough. It was surely nicer than the accommodations of 99% of Cubans. You went out into the street. Did people come up to you? Did they want to tell you things? Did they want to sell you things? What was it like interacting with Cuban people before you got into your conversations with them?
But first of all, the main street, the street of the capital, it's really touristy. A lot of people are like harassing you to sell you all kind of like stuff or a trip with those vintage cars. But when you go a little bit outside and when you just, you look at the garbage or you look at some graffiti, people are just coming up to you and say, you see how life is, and then you start talking just casually talking about all kind of stuff about life, about how it is now in Cuba. And people want to speak. They are just afraid that they are being caught by some secret police, but they open up pretty fast. To tell their story. And the thing that they were asking is please tell the world what we are living under, because we can't continue like that.
Estamos encantados de conocernos, Ibrahim y Alexa, en este momento, porque ya que yo soy cubano, que son canadienses, y ellos quieren saber la realidad cubana, ¿no? La realidad cubana, les voy a explicar en este momento, que todo está sintiendo un servicio de cambio de la sociedad social de Cuba. Muchas personas dicen, no, la COVID fue para todo el mundo, pero normalmente después que muere nuestro comandante Fidel, las cosas en Cuba...
Wow, it's heartbreaking. Some of the poverty was just in the video that we published that you filmed was just incredible. Did you encounter any supporters for the regime who didn't also work for the regime. So, for example, if someone was in a hotel, they would probably say something nice about the regime because they have the best job they could. A policeman would probably say something nice about the regime. But once you spoke to an ordinary person living in poverty, did any of them still say, socialismo o muerte or something like, were they still mouthing the slogans of the socialist regime, or was everyone just burnt out by it long ago, stopped supporting it? Were there any people who still thought communism worked?
I don't think people think that communism works, but the thing is, they have been indoctrinated since young age to believe that communism, revolution, and Fidel Castro was actually the best thing for Cubans. So there is still some people believing that Fidel was a great man. But with the social media, this opened a new door of information for them. And it's how they started questioning everything, questioning the life they are living under. And you can see now that people are not dumb. They see what is happening. And especially when Fidel Castro passed and Raúl, his brother, took the place. And now everybody say that, okay, the president is Diaz-Canel, but no, it's actually Raúl that is behind and is ruling the country still. But people are saying now that the country is falling apart faster than ever. But they still believe, some of them, that Fidel was a great man. Some of them say that they never actually asked for the revolution. But one thing, they all liked Che Guevara.
Really? Wow. Isn't that interesting? I suppose it's like in China, Mao has turned into a bit of a legend more than a reality. Isn't that interesting? Now, you mentioned social media. I imagine the internet is highly censored there. What kind of information did people know? Did they know about the arrest of Nicolas Maduro, the dictator of Venezuelan? Did they know about Trump sort of operating in Venezuela? What did they know about? And what did it come from independent sources, or did it come from communist sources?
There is both. So you can see in the TV, because me and Efron, we were watching the TV, and there is actually ads of it's ads for bringing back Maduro, and that the U.S. operation was actually anti-democratic, and that all the fault is on Donald Trump. Oh, ¿qué? ¿No? ¿Cómo se dice? ¿Cómo se dice?
Eso para hacer un caldo.
Yeah, to make like a soup or stew.
Ahí nada más se puede hacer.
Sí, porque no se puede, no hay, no está bien.
Ahí nada más se puede hacer el caldo
Mira ahí.
mira, este caldo.
¿Caldo?
No arroz, no nada, caldo, mira.
Ah, okay.
Agua de sopa.
Wow.
La cocina. Usted está en Cuba, patria socialista, tierra de Fidel. ¿No es así?
La verdadera mafia de Cuba, gobierno.
But on the other hand, they heard that there were no Cuban in Venezuela when this happened. And then they heard that 32 Cuban died. And so they started questioning, but you just say that there were no Cuban in Venezuela, but now you're saying that there is 32 Cuban who died. So they were bold then to start questioning, so you're lying to us. So what else should I know? And then they started like looking at social media and looking at certain probably news that they have access. But again, it's really, really dangerous for them to go and check on social media or on internet, because everything is controlled, everything is monitored. And if they find out that they have social media on their phone, or they have been watching other news on their phone, they can be jailed.
Internet, no, su internet.
No, no, no.
Preso,
Sí,
justicia.
sí. No, 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 no.
La libertad de expresión, hablar muy bajito, no hay problema, sino preso.
Porque si enseñas en Cuba, police, a mí, yo preso. Aquí hay muchas prisiones.
Wow. Now, what reaction have you had? The video has not yet been out for a full 24 hours. Have you had a reaction from Cuban exiles in Miami? I know you went down to Miami a few weeks ago when Maduro was toppled. Have you made any connections with other Cuban freedom fighters? What's happened in the last day?
Yeah, we have a former candidate for the Conservative Party of Quebec that is Cuban himself. He actually moved in Quebec 25 years ago, and he was actually so happy to see that report. He was actually glad, and he said that he's going to share it with all the expats. As well on X, there is a lot of Cuban who actually share my reports. I have some of them who actually wrote to me privately, and I have also some people who reached out to me by email saying that they actually live in Cuba part-time and they want to share some other part of Cuba and how it even works when you go out of Havana.
Wow. Well, listen, I'm so proud of you and Efron, and I recognize that we put you, and you chose to go into harm's way, which is a very courageous thing to do. You knew that you were at risk, and that's why I was so nervous when I didn't hear from you for 5 hours. I thought, oh my God, that risk has come true. But I'm glad you went, and you didn't go. It was not a vacation at all. You just walked the streets all day, talking to real people, and the results show it. For folks who haven't seen the video, I played some of it yesterday, but you can see the whole thing at thetruthaboutcuba.com. Well, congratulations, Alexa, to you and Efron, and thanks very much for doing this.
Thank you, and thank you for giving Cuban a voice, because I received the assignment, but the first person who decided it was you.
Well, I knew you would do a great job there, and Efron too. Thank you, my friend, for that.
Thank you so much.
There she is, Alexa Lavoie, one of the two-person duo who went to Havana. Stay with us. Your letters to me next.